filings in the back, that's why all the back.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we got some gifts for women.
I would still be using
You go down the pole a little bit. You know, like Helen's like, you know, all burning right now. We really like that. I know you know it. I own, you know, $10, and you know when they don't buy. Yeah, make it good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's certified in this.
Four.
Got it, sir.
That's what I was.
Just help you.
You get shot this time.
Sounds like
Lord have mercy.
probably. I don't know.
I look around, I ride around, I see
That's
another
all I'm saying,
place.
'cause I really don't know a lot.
Why do you just love around?
And this is a little bit.
Take the trash out of your yard.
Know what your neighbors are, don't let them
Have
know.
a police office or something.
That's what I'm used to. Oh, yeah.
That's why I looked back. That's what we did all this.
Check all the time. I'm about to judge my son.
That's, well, the city had, well, I put the grass.
I'm here instead of paying.
Have you heard anything on the congressman or senator's internment? Yeah, Feinstein.
Who?
Feinstein.
Didn't they have some?
They had a ceremony yesterday, but I don't know, because when she gets interned, that's the day we raise the flag.
Oh, yeah, for the flag, right.
Should be buried out there in Washington.
Yeah.
California,
All the way.
the town that she used to be mayor of.
Oh,
She was the,
Was she senator or she said, yeah, senator.
yeah, he was there, no, he wasn't there when they killed him there.
San Francisco?
Yeah.
Moscow.
oh,
They shot him in.
I don't know.
Yeah, who about it? That's how she became.
And she got the
Politics, you know, they're
Oh, yeah, so like, what was it, strong Thurman, he said there was like 90. Why would you want to?
I missed when she was working with Thurman.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
People like us,
I was in the Navy at the time.
People like us keep you on your toes.
Oh, yeah.
We got plenty of time, we can ride all day.
What time is it?
Still including the first,
Yes.
We could try to do something, do all of us.
Please come.
We could even combine you in with Ricky and, mow the grass, mow the grass, and it'd be helpful.
we'll give you a mower with lights and sirens on it, just so you can get it on.
Could you imagine a newspaper on that? Friggin' tiger paw.
Placebo, maybe, I don't know. I saw this morning and I said,
Very good.
It's a audio, but it's not.
Basically, it says,
It's not.
that's it.
It's
it's on standby. Push one button and it does come up.
He knows they're coming here.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Do we have a, yes.
Here it is. Oh, that's right, I forgot about that.
Oh, sure, Ricky, just keep your phone on. I was voluntold.
So usually I go to the meeting, I don't even know there was that, it was silent.
Yeah. Okay.
Lord willing.
Yeah. We're really gonna fix
You
it.
gotta turn it on. I can't put my finger in it, turn it on.
Everybody's off today, so.
Glad yours is on.
I'm not trying to. Yeah, okay. I just didn't want to.
She was a good lit clipper, I couldn't get nothing past her.
Yeah. You know, they say, oh,
My mom used to speak in pigeon English, is that different or
No, it's,
I didn't know.
I got P-I-D-G-E-O-N, it's spelled, it's kind of a dialect.
Okay, oh, so all of that.
The front of the word.
yes.
Okay, that's it.
We used to.
Oh, that's a big
We
one.
used to pig Latin. Pig Latin.
Okay.
That's a big
I
line.
knew that's what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Pigeon language.
Usually has
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter and I saw each other.
It's a fun way to frustrate little kids.
First day back on vacation.
Well.
So the first time I took a 2-week vacation.
I'm ready.
You are on.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is 3:30, Friday, October 6th. We are convening a special meeting of the City Commission. It's a very short agenda. If we could rise for the ceremonial prayer and pledge allegiance. Father, be with us, keep us civil, and keep us moving forward as a city. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The only item on the agenda is the approval of the city administrator brochure that's being put together by Colin Benzinger, I will never pronounce that right, and it's okay, and Associates for our executive recruitment for the city administrator position. We have each been, the commission has each been emailed a copy of this, and we've had opportunity to send our individual responses back. We wanted to have a collective meeting though, so we could actually converse about it if there was something that needed to be conversed about. Sometimes that helps, sometimes not. Also, the recruitment firm felt it would be good to have a vote approving this before we put it into circulation and publication, so that it would be truly from the commission, not just something that they say was from the commission. So we're a special meeting, so we can vote on this one thing. I will turn it over to the commissioners if anybody has anything they want to.
One thing we need
Charlie,
to do.
start.
I'm sorry.
No, it's
One
good.
thing we need to do is set the salary. That's not in here.
Yes, that's part of this process. You are correct. Well, do you want to start there? Or do you want to start with the brochure?
Well, if we start with the salary, get that hard part out.
Salaries, that's the
Okay.
first one.
Well, let's start there. What did our group send us for a range? I've forgotten.
Yeah, they gave a survey of cities of comparable size. I believe there were 6 of them, and they range from 85 to 165. And they went through a process of elimination of lack of comparability back and forth with certain of the individual cities. And from that, they deduce a range of 105 to 145. As what they would recommend the range be. And it's important because your applicants are going to want to know what the range is. And then it's also important from your standpoint because depending on the qualifications of whomever, you can adjust that to start lower or a really good one, higher, etc., without violating what you call regulations.
Well, I have a suggestion. I suggest we start at 115 because that's what he's making now, and go to 140, between 115 and 140.
They're making 145.
The 145, okay.
Well, would you like to make that well, we can just talk about it for a little bit. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I was looking at the taxable income of all the different communities and everything. And the closest one I could find was the year 2020 on League of Cities website. And we're the lowest out of all of them, almost 30% lower.
Does that make the job easier or harder?
It actually makes the job harder. But I was also looking at the past wage report that was done the last time that we did this. And I think the lowest one on there was like 75,000. So I was thinking more of like giving a range between 90 and 140. Which, talking to the guy, he said that's not far off from what we've got.
If you do 90, you're paying them $5,000 less than you're paying Public Works Administrator. How does that work?
Same way it does with anybody else starting. Once it's 6 months or up, you can get a promotion.
So,
I will tell you from an applicant.
city administrator is gonna come in making less than a Public Works Director.
Sometime or other, we have to stop with the overpaying of people.
Exactly, it should have been stopped. Should have been stopped already.
Well, I think, Heather, you want to chime in?
Well, I think that the range seems reasonable. It's less than what we are currently paying, and it's higher than what we're currently paying. So it's kind of right around where we're at now. And we've seen the market. If you do the market comparisons, like Roger's saying, there are some that are much lower. But for our tax basin, as mentioned, it makes it harder. So I don't think that starting at 90 seems reasonable. I don't think we're going to pull in the applicants that we want to see, and we've invested all of this money in this brochure and these folks that are helping us to pull in the ideal candidates. So I don't want to undercut what they're trying to accomplish. I think we just stick with what they've advised and move forward.
Since we're working our way around the table, I would say, I understand each of y'all's points completely. I would say this is comparable to having an attorney and not taking their advice.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite that bad. None of us are going to jail for this, but we did hire a professional group to advise us. They are our advisors and our advocates in this process, and I think it would be wise of us to follow their recommendations. The bottom and the top don't sound like they make much difference to us, but it might in the field. We're not used to talking to groups of city administrators or dealing with groups of, we're not used to dealing with them as a market, if you look at it that way, a market of employees. We're not used to that. So I think hiring this group, Colin Basinger, whatever their name is, I think that is a really good thing to fall back on their advice. And this is a range we ultimately, when it comes down to negotiation, have absolute authority in that anyway. So this is a starting range to advertise. It doesn't tie our hands. And I say I'm not even going to be voting on this. this.
Right.
And I understand that. So I'm trying to not insert myself too much, just throw out opinions. I definitely want to leave most of this to y'all. But I do want to share my opinions, I'm here. I can't stop myself if I wanted to. Go ahead, Robert.
Also, when they did interviews with each other, they asked me what I thought the starting range should be, and at that time I said 100,000. So the 105 really isn't far off from the 100,000 that I originally started at.
Yeah.
But that was before I found out about how much taxable income that the cities were bringing in.
And some of those outliers, and I never looked at any of that, that's fine, that research you did is fine. Some of the outliers, you mentioned some cities that were down in the 60s or 70s, something like that.
80 was Easton.
Yeah, some of those they're outliers for a reason. Somebody stepped up that happened to fit and retired in a position in their own backyard kind of thing. Things like that happen and create those outliers. I don't think we can look for that when we're shopping like this.
So we're gonna start $10,000 lower than incompetent person that we have now, as some have said. As some have said. So we're gonna start $10,000 less. So we paid an incompetent person $115, but we want to start at
Well, considering
105.
115,000 wasn't what he started at. True.
Well,
That's what he's ending at.
After 3 years, yeah, that's
What
a
did you start
legitimate
at?
point.
I think he started around 85.
I said,
95 was over the 3-year period. And it was not eligible for the cost of living, same cost of living, if there was one, there were. And I was then eligible for cost of living in February 24th, but as we know, I've not seen that.
Well, it's not a point, you're looking at people on paper and then what the best what they're putting forward. So even if we're going to say, we've had this issue and we have a period of transition happening, the person coming in may not have the same skill sets on paper that we presented when he interviewed. So I think it's a fair assessment to say we can look a little less with the skill set is less.
Can I do one thing that I meant to do at the very beginning of the meeting? I want to invite Vernon and Lynn to join us at the table and join in the conversation. Because y'all are going to be on the commission that decides and does this. I want you to be intimately involved in the whole process. And so I'll also turn the floor over to y'all. What are your thoughts on this salary range, if you have any? I know I'm catching you off guard. It's a surprise.
I spoke in depth for 4 days. Of course, I just found out about it Monday morning, but I was really rushing, wasn't I? But I spoke in depth regarding the salary range, and actually the salary range that Linnell told me was from 105, not 115, but 105, up to 145. So I told them, based on the skills, and with that 5 to 7 years of experience, that I think coming in at 110 would be fair. And then after a probationary period, increase it to $5,000. No call is no no. That would put them pretty much in the range that pleased me. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's fair. We're not going over the budget, we've already got that pretty much filled in. So that was my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Mayor-elect.
I spent my time with Colin trying to explain to him what a city administrator is. Our track record with city administrators, turnover has been one of the problems that I looked at their hiring, and they only hired one city administrator of all of their city managers that they hired. And the city administrator that they hired was from Bradenton, and he was, the city was 10,000 people. So I guess they didn't have a lot of experience that I saw that they have with at least understanding what a city administrator was. Our biggest problem is let's getting someone to know what a city administrator is. If we get somebody with that skill set and then know what their job is, I think that would be, that's my focus. If you come to the table and you have the skill set and you can earn the salary. You know, we're, like, I like when you said that it's like having an attorney give you a legal advice and then you decide to go your own way. We're looking at a company that's basically doing hiring nationwide. So they've got a track record of knowing what to bring to the table, and especially the fact that they came and spoke to us. So now I would say that because we've at least given them an idea of what we want, that number, and I'm not even focusing on the number, sorry if I'm not on that number thing. The number thing, I mean, you can get a guy that's, you know, his last job, he's paying $200,000, but that doesn't mean he's worth $200,000. The other thing that I did in speaking with, I connected Colin with the Don Fidel, because Don Fidel is the one who created literally the city administrator position. And I wanted him to give me some input and try to give him at least the opportunity to explain it to them what a city administrator is. So I'm going to let what we individually all spoke to them about. I'm not going to second guess them, but I will say that I will be the mayor then. The person that the group of people that they come to the table with, I think we'll have sufficient amount of questions as to what we expect out of them. Do they understand what we want? Are they what, you know, what we're looking for? The other thing is that I saw a lot of the city administrators, even with Lee, I think Lee worked out west somewhere.
Worked all over.
And see, that's the other thing about the city administrators is that it's not a local kind of position. It's a national, nationwide kind of search. And the people that come to that particular table, they got a wide range of experience. And even someone that may have had that wide range of experience and maybe decided, well, I want to have a little slower lifestyle, and they tell it might be where I want to go. Even though you might have came from a high-powered city. And if you came from a high-powered city and you were looking to downsize the workload, and then be able to take a little less because you get a better quality of life. I think those things that we offer all these in this brochure does give a really nice picture of what I would want to move here if I saw this. So I'm going to let the numbers speak for themselves. That's probably all I got to add.
I think it, thank you. I think it does, this range is a reasonable range. I think you may be right, we may be landing right around 110 with an increase, but it's nice to have the range because who knows who's gonna walk through our door.
Well, I'm looking for a premise that with skills.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
Because it starts out with a bachelor's for 7 years. But I think they did an excellent job in describing the job description that Lee is fulfilling with the challenges and the ideal candidate as a city administrator. So
I thought that, we'll get to that more in a minute after we settle on the salary, but I thought the description of the ideal candidate is interesting, to say the least.
yeah, I looked
They're
at
kind
that
of, they have to be everything to everybody, and then they'll be perfect. But I think it's, well, yeah, let's get back to the salary, since we decided to start there. 105 to 145 is what was recommended to us. Does anybody feel strongly that that's just out of line and want to make a motion other than that, or do we want to land on that? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we go from 105 to 145. Their recommendation.
I have a motion and a second to accept the salary range from our company at 105 to 145 as the advertised range. Any further discussion? And then we'll just, hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now let's move on to the, and thank you for that. Let's move on to the brochure itself. It's interesting. Who wants to start discussion on that? We've already had some, but Heather, you opened your mouth. Are you?
No, I mean, I was just reflecting on the fact that we were talking about the ideal candidate, and you're right, it has a lot.
My thought on that was, sorry to interrupt you, yeah.
No,
Well, I don't know that we need to condense it. The people who are going to be applying for the job know more about the job than we do anyway.
Right.
To some extent. This shows what our expectations are, shows them what our expectations are. So I think we need to look at it from that respect. And I think it might be good that it's kind of all over the place, because then they'll know that they can bring what they believe it should be to the table, and they'll be in that range. If we were to narrow it too much, they would say, oh, that's not really the way I operate. I'm not going to fit there. We don't need to have a strict, narrow anticipation of exactly what they're going to be. It's my own thought. I'll try and shut up and turn it back over.
That's a great way of looking at it. I hadn't considered it from that standpoint.
May I say something?
Absolutely.
I find a 30,000 difference from the 115 to 145. If it were me applying, I mean, I would be, probably the best thing that ever happened to Lake Helen, and I would go for 145. And then we have to also look at moving expenses and everything on top of that. So we're looking at a lot of money. And in addition to that, I think it's really unfair. We've had Lee on this job. Not that I think that much of Lee, but I'm going to defend him. I'm going to cry out. I think Lee and I get along fine, but I think it's really unfair. The man's been on the job for 3 years. He's at 115. I looked at his personnel file. He's got grant writing. He's got everything in there that our brochure requests. So there's a $30,000 range, and then we've got to boost it up with moving, bringing them in, interviews, per diem expenses, and then house hunting and moving them possibly. I find that it could get really high, 200,000. I would like to see it narrowed down, so we could at least say, okay, 115 to, I know you already made a motion, but that's just my reason behind it.
And we will, as I said, I shouldn't even say we, y'all will ultimately be approving whatever package there is. And you could approve 35,000, or you could approve 300,000. This doesn't tie your hands as a commission when it comes time for negotiations. This just is what we're advertising so people will know kind of where we are. But you're right, it's going to be expensive. Any thoughts on the brochure? Any additional thoughts on the brochure itself? I think it's
on the ideal candidate section, I like how it leaves it open so the person's interpretation that's going to apply that he can bring his extra skill sets to it also. I like how it's broad and open so much.
I thought Todd Preston would appreciate this picture. I thought she would appreciate this picture in the brochure.
All right. I do appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Well, I'm not hearing anybody tear this up and say we need to change this, and this. Are we, one thing that I did notice, on the, what are these things called, these charts of,
Flow chart.
yeah, sort of. But anyway, whatever this chart is, That last, the very bottom blue block, administrative assistant under police and code, we're contemplating not filling that position, right?
No, that's,
When,
thank you. That's the.
That does say, okay, then,
It's the one that's water.
Under public works. And that's staff, so it encompasses.
We can redo that. In fact, Vernon told me he actually did that when he was on the commission.
It's the citizens at the top of the list, instead of city commission.
It's in need of revamping, not major, but correctly. Police commander used to be
Mike
Chief Walker. When Chief Walker was not the chief, he was the commander.
Right.
So just little stuff like that, name titles, but nothing significant.
Well, as I was kind of starting to say, not hearing any major changes being looked or sought by any of. Am I mistaken in that?
I think it's phone call to everybody, he incorporated some of the changes that some of the people got to talk to.
I pointed out 2 or 3 minor, just adjectives, changing the adjectives, and they recognized it, did each one I pointed out, and I'm sure you all had input as well. I thought they did a really nice job of the process. It encourages me that the process moving forward is going to go well. Just to tell the general public, y'all hear what has happened so far. Our recruitment firm came in and did about an hour interview with every commissioner, commissioners, mayor-elect, staff, to see what all of our expectations were to try and put together this brochure. They really do seem to be working for us, and I've been very impressed with their level of professionalism and knowledge. We really have been impressed, so I think this is going well. I hope it bears good fruit. Ms. Kraska?
Yeah, just a housekeeping. This is the one, Vernon, this is the one you put together, right?
The only thing that was my input was the old city flow chart had a city commission.
But this is the one you suggest, that you brought,
Well,
right?
only from the citizens, but the other ones weren't, I didn't have anything.
Just in housekeeping, since the one we're using hasn't been approved, maybe you guys can just approve this organizational chart?
That's
Because
what
it
we're
was-
We have to redo it, because
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm just saying it's housekeeping, because it's been used on several things and it wasn't the original. Not
Those-
that this one is.
Those are just contract services though, right? Are those contract
It's just
services?
a slight change to our organizational chart. It's
Right.
just an easy, adopting the new organizational chart, just takes a vote.
Okay.
And you have finance director here, that was back when we did have a finance director in-house.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go with the accounting firm.
That's why it says
Yeah.
contracted.
Yeah, it says
There's an option
contracted
there.
there with the finance director. It probably should say contracted with city attorney as well, although if we wanted to start defining things, I don't know that it really matters much.
But it gives the applicant at least a clear picture of what it is that he's going to be over.
Yeah.
If we have things that are on the chart that is not there, then
And if we contradict in the way we do it, like we have contracted here in finance, but we don't have it in city attorney, that we should be consistent.
Well, city attorney's a charter member, so
Yeah, but it's still
he's not
contracted.
really, yeah, I know he's contracted, but it's not really,
he's not.
it's like the city administrator, are you gonna put contracted underneath this too?
Well, that is a contract employee, but they are a direct employee as opposed to a firm. Like I said, we could get too deep into the explanation of the organizational chart. It's supposed to be just a basic chart.
My suggestion is just to adopt it as it is now. If you want to make changes, that's fine. But since this is on several other documents, that way they're consistent.
All
And the
right.
right ones used.
Well,
We do want to change it even for this. So that,
yeah. Are there any other changes that people want to see? So what are the changes so far? Let me make some notes. What changes do we want to see on this organization chart? You want to scratch water billing? Is that what you were pointing?
I mean, I think that doesn't exist is what I'm
It's not a
hearing.
department, that's true.
Right, so I think just taking that out.
We were gonna rename that accounts payable.
Oh,
Near your heart.
yeah, very good. And
Okay,
then-
so water billing will become accounts payable?
Yes.
Okay.
And maybe take out the word contracted, that way we don't have to get into the weeds on that.
I tend to agree with that too.
Change police commander to police chief.
Correct.
Is that police and code compliance? Is the police chief on a line level to administrator or city?
He's a department head. And you're right, Ernest, these are not, they don't designate department heads, because we only have basically 3, and one of them's not even on there, that's Roxanne. But it's the chief, and it's Rick, and it's Roxanne, and the 3 departments.
Actually, you have.
Yeah, but I'm not a department head. I mean, we don't have a different line, but department head is everybody else on that line.
Department head at the time.
Also, code compliance and their animal control as well, right? Do we need to list that?
There's a lot of stuff that, under that
Right.
is.
So maybe we just need to take out code compliance?
Yeah, I would take out code compliance. I would just say police.
Descriptive instead
It's our police
of
department.
overall.
Yeah. Under that, we have officers, code compliance, as administrative assistant.
And then how about our Debbie and Aaron, or
Their financial, one of them is
Assistance
accounts
and
payable.
permits.
Yeah, one's accounts payable,
somebody here?
and one is building and zoning.
Administrative assistant.
Yeah, they're under administrative assistant permits. I would read that, would take out.
Permits put in.
Oh, I see, here and here. Okay, I follow you. So we need a box here.
And
Down. Okay.
All right. So that cleaned that up a little bit.
Excuse me, Mayor?
Yes?
Previously, the city clerk was under directly with the city administrator, which followed the administrative. That's how that would, that breakdown. Because it's,
Right now, technically, the
or is the deputy
city
city clerk?
administrator is the city clerk.
If we were doing by department heads, yeah, they would flow that route, but we're not doing by department heads.
So this is all, these are all equal to that, other than the city administrator?
These are all
I didn't know
things
where
that
this
the
is
city
at.
administrator will have to watch over and take care of.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, correct,
I
under supervision
understand.
of the administrator, yeah.
Do we need to list the engineer?
we don't have any official need for one, we have one, but I had to put them in there.
Those are contracted by job more than,
Right, so we
like,
don't.
like Scott is our attorney all the time. The
Yes.
engineer is our attorney on given jobs.
Right.
It's weird.
What is, excuse me, what is water billing going to go under? Are we doing away with that completely?
Accounts payable.
It'd be accounts payable. Yeah, we're eliminating, well, I'd like to eliminate the position of the sharing help. So we don't have that filled anymore.
So that would go under Zach going forward, or?
Under.
No, it would still be within City Hall as,
Yeah.
under accounts payable.
And that would go under finance, correct?
No, it's not under finance. It's under, it's, the
Administrative?
finance director is, he doesn't directly supervise any of these people, so they're not under him. There's overwatch and oversight, but it's not supervision.
So would that go under administrative, possibly?
It would be an administrative assistant.
You could
Okay.
put it in there, or you could have its own thing, it's just accounts payable with its own box. It kind of doesn't much matter. Those are things that City Hall is doing. That flow. To me, it seems like it would fit to just, instead of have water billing, have accounts payable, and then administrative assistant, and planning and zoning. Could be in the same box, we could have two separate boxes for those too, but however you think that would best
Still would
fit.
have more boxes than people though.
I know.
Then people say, yeah, I'm doing that box.
Does anybody know what other cities do? Wouldn't that typically fall under something under public works?
Not necessarily. Many cities, billing, water billing and stuff, I mean, we've got such a small city, we don't have a department for that, it's just a
It's a
job.
small city, but I
It's-
tell you, that is the bulk of our income.
I know, but it's not the bulk of the work of a given employee. And it's getting easier and easier, with the software working the way it's working. So it's becoming a shorter commitment of the employee's time. It's gotten so much easier, we're looking at going to monthly with the new software, which will be helpful to the citizens, and it's still gonna take less time in the office probably than it currently does.
You go to larger cities and stuff like that, like Deltona,
They
their water
probably-
billing is in their water department, because the water department's so big.
And they probably have
So
20
many
people in their building.
employees.
Well, I mean, technically, don't we have, does Public Works go out and they read the meters, correct?
Yes.
Basically, inherently, that's correct, yes, but
So
soon
we-
it's gonna be purely radio, and they'll just push a button on their computer and it'll show up,
Oh, okay.
theoretically anyway.
Well, that's-
Everything's always easier said than done, isn't it?
Hopefully they won't have to go out if it comes up and says error, then they gotta go out and find out what's causing the error.
That's right.
Yeah, every new system is perfect until you install it, and then you realize, oh, maybe not. Hopefully we won't see too much of that, but you always have to kind of worry a little bit.
So maybe we eliminate accounts payable, just put under administrative assistants and permits, you have county staff and permitting staff. Two different little things like you have here, as little blue things. Maybe that's just being nitpicky, but.
Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, we'll give you, we'll rework it and give you back something to the much more accurate. See what I want to do, it'll be much more accurate.
Just those little things.
Well, anything else on the brochure overall? Anybody in the audience read through this and think we're being a little too rosy or not rosy enough? I'm kind of with you, there's not a whole lot to say, but just want to give you opportunity.
I did have one other thing we had to talk about yesterday, but I see it's still in here, and I don't think it makes any difference to him. Where it put that the CA is leaving after 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt that it would be a little more classy and not produce too many questions on why. And so I think we should why don't we just put retirement, or at least other retirement, maybe, for fishing. So that would be, I think how you feel about it.
Retirement would take away any stigma that you don't like as administrators on a regular basis.
Right, but I think the reality is that anybody applying to this job is going to ask that question. And they're going to get a truthful answer.
If you say retirement, it may not, but if you just leave it open like this, it just invites the question.
It does.
Well, and it's all public record too.
I was gonna say that.
So it's on
I
YouTube.
have to remove the media, and you got it.
And you just Google it and it'll come up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to see exactly what's been going on.
Yep, that's true. Well,
Anyone who's, I mean, I think an applicant that's interested in the city is going to be Googling us and watching our YouTube videos, listening to our audio files, if they're actually interested. So I think they'll know.
Yes, sir.
And I kind of impressed upon the researcher that, you know, don't let someone come to the city, they tell them to get a job and do they have to take a ride around. It's just kind of simple things that you kind of just looking at us on paper, but, you know, you take the time to show up, going around, drive around, you know, kick the tires before you get the car. That might be something that we want. That's something I said that I would look for Because if I'm going to ask you, if I'm interviewing you, I want to ask you, have you been to the city? What have you seen? Where have you been? Do you know how our city government works? These are very simple questions, but, you know, somebody, I won't call any names, someone that would have had a job as city administrator for a year and a half, and then only found out after a year and a half that we paid the individual $100,000 that he was actually an administrator, not a manager. I've had that experience. So I think, and I kind of, not only did I hone in on that, I think I put everybody in everybody's box. One of the things from the Observer, yeah, which I wrote an article about the making of the city administrator, and it kind of gave the history of the city administrator, and also let them know what we expect from them. We're not managing. We were created. The city administrator was created by the city commission, and he served at the pleasure of the city commission. And I think something else that we offer is that this is a small town. You know, you're going to be multitasking. Don't be sitting, you know, tied to your desk. You might have to make some rounds, contact some of our organizations, go meet organizations or businesses, and make yourself known. Like Lee, yesterday, you know, to the Boys and Girls Club.
Embarrassingly, for the first time in 3 years.
In 3 years. You got 84 kids in there.
Oh, it was a really neat experience. If you haven't been there, you gotta go in. Put earplugs.
Oh, I've been there a lot in the past.
Yeah. So those are kind of the hands-on things that would give the applicant a little bit of a heads up that we are looking. We want to know what you want to know about us, other than what your pay salary is going to be.
One thing that popped in my head when you first started, going back about 10 things of what you said, about questions you would ask them. I remember them saying, and this is difficult to do, but it's important in the process, is that we need to ask these applicants the exact same questions. Each applicant gets asked the same questions. It's apparently legally important. So remember that. If you have questions in mind, we should be running those questions past our advisors here and kind of getting that list of questions to ask, so nailed down. I'm not sure when in the process they're going to address that with us. They haven't really yet, but they mentioned it pretty clearly. So just keep that in mind. I think it's going to be an important thing at some point. Anyway, well, further thoughts on this before we, or do I hear a motion to approve this with a few changes that we have discussed to the organizational chart? I haven't heard any changes in wording anywhere. Other, you asked about the leaving versus retiring.
Well, yeah, actually, you can look at what I did receive, and I made a lot of changes when I talked to them, so, and I made them all, so I'm happy.
Well, good, and that's what we're looking at already. That's excellent.
I'll make a motion that we accept it as it is, with that change of
the organizational chart.
Yes. Second.
A motion and a second to accept the brochure as currently is. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No opposition. Motion carries unanimously. Since we're in a special meeting, anything that needs, Mr. City Administrator, anything we need to address? Nope. Today? No. Commissioners? Citizens? Hearing none, meeting is adjourned. Salary range of 105 to 145 as an organizational chart changes. Will you relay that to? I figured it out. Thank you very much.